welcome to the Sleepy Pillow. My name is Sarah, and today we'll be reading two stories called A Bridegroom for Miss Mole and Pigling and a Proud Sister from the book Korean Fairy Tales by William Elliott Griffith. Now let's find a comfy place, close your eyes, and enjoy the stories. A Bridegroom for Miss Mole. By the River Kingin stands the great stone image, or miduk, that was cut out of the rock ages ago. Its base lies far beneath the ground, and around its granite cap, many feet square, the storm clouds gather and play as they roll down the mountain. Down under the mountain, near this mighty colossus, lived a soft-furred mole and his wife. One day, a daughter was born to them. It was the most wonderful mole baby that ever was known. The father was so proud of his lovely offspring that he determined to marry her only to the grandest thing in the whole universe. Nothing else would satisfy his pride in the beautiful creature he called his own. Father Mole sought long and hard to find out where and what in all nature was considered the most wonderful. He called in his neighbors and talked over the matter with them. Then he visited the king of the moles and asked the wise ones in his court to decide for him. One and all agreed that the great blue sky was above everything else in glory and greatness. So up to the sky the mole father went and offered his daughter to be the bride of the great blue, telling how with his great azure robe the sky had the reputation, both on the earth and under it, of being the greatest thing in the universe. But much to the mole father's surprise, the sky declined. No, I am not the greatest. I must refer you to the sun. He controls me, for he can make it day or night as he pleases. Only when he rises can I wear my bright colors. When he goes down, darkness covers the world, and men do not see me at all, but the stars instead. Better take your charming daughter to him. So to the sun went Mr. Mole, and though afraid to look directly into his face, he made his plea. He would have the sun marry his attractive daughter. But the mighty luminary that usually seems so fierce, dazzling men's eyesight and able to burn up the grass of the field, seemed suddenly very modest. Instead of accepting at once the offer, the son said to the father, "Alas, I am not master. The cloud is greater than I, for he is able to cover me up and make me invisible for days and weeks. I am not as powerful as you think me to be. Let me advise you to offer your daughter to the cloud." Surprised at this, the mole father looked quite disappointed. Now he was in doubt as to what time he had best propose to the cloud, when it was silvery white and glistening in a summer afternoon, or when it was black and threatening a tempest. However, his ambition to get for his daughter the mightiest possible bridegroom prompted him to wait until the lightning flashed and the thunder rolled. Then, appearing before the terrible dark cloud that shot out the fire, he told of the charms of his wonderful daughter and offered her as bride. "But why do you come to me?" asked the cloud, his face inky black with the wrath of a storm and its eyes red with the fires of lightning. "Because you are not only the greatest thing in the universe, but you have proved it by your terrible power," replied the father mole. At this, the cloud ceased its rolling, stopped its fire and thunder, and almost laughed. "So far from being the greatest thing in the world, I am not even my own master. See already how the wind is driving me. Soon I shall be invisible, dissolved in air. Let me commend you to the wind. The master of the cloud will make a grand son-in-law." Thereupon Papa Mole waited until the wind calmed down after blowing away the clouds. Then, telling of his daughter's accomplishments and loveliness, he made proffer of his only child as bride to the wind. But the wind was not half so proud as the mole father had expected to find him. Very modest, almost bashful seemed the wind, as he confessed that before Meetup, the colossal stone image, his power was naught. "Why, I smite that great stone face, and its eyes do not even blink. I roar in his ears, but he minds it not. I try to make him sneeze, but he will not. Smite him as I may, he still stands unmoved and smiling. Alas, no, I am not the grandest thing in the universe, while Meetup stands. Go to him. He alone is worthy to marry your daughter." By this time, the mole father was not only footsore and weary, but very discouraged so. Evidently all appreciated his shining daughter, but would he be able to, after all, to get her a worthy husband? He rested himself a while and then proceeded to meet the colossus of granite, as large as a lighthouse, its head far up in the air, but with ears ready to hear. The mole father squeaked out compliments to the image as being by common confession the greatest thing on earth. He presented his request for a son-in-law, and then in detail mentioned the accomplishments of his daughter, sounding her praise at great length. Indeed, he almost ruined his case by talking so long. With stony patience, Meetup listened to the proud father with a twinkle in his white granite eyes. When his lips moved, he was heard to say, "Fond parent, what you say is true. I am great. I care not for sky, day, or night, for I remain the same in daylight and darkness. I fear not the sun that cannot melt me, nor the frost that is not able to make me crumble. Cold or hot, in summer or in wintertime, I remain unchanged. The clouds come and go, but they cannot move me. Their fire and noise, lightning and thunder I fear not. Yes, I am great." Then the stone lips closed again. "You will make, then, a good bridegroom for my daughter. You will marry her, I understand?" asked the proud father as his hopes began to rise, though he was still doubtful. "I would gladly do so, if I were greatest, but I am not," said Meetup. "Down under my feet is the mole. He digs with his shovel-like hands and makes burrows day and night. His might I cannot resist. Soon he shall undermine my base, and I shall topple down and lie like common stone along the earth. Yes, by universal confession, the mole is the greatest thing in the universe, and to him I yield. Better marry your daughter to him. So after all his journeying, the father sought no further. Advised on all sides, and opinion being unanimous, he found that the mole was the greatest thing in the universe. His daughter's bridegroom was found at home and of the same family of creatures. He married her to a young and handsome mole, and the great joy and rejoicing was at the wedding. The pair were well mated and lived happily ever afterward. Pigling and her proud sister. Pear Blossom had been the name of a little Korean maid who suddenly left motherless. When her father, Kangwa, who was a magistrate high in office, married again, he took for his wife a proud widow, whose daughter, born to Kangwa, was named Violet. Mother and daughter hated housework and made Pear Blossom clean the rice, cook the food, and attend to the fire in the kitchen. They were hateful in their treatment of Pear Blossom, and besides never speaking a kind word, called her Pigling, or Little Pig, which made the girl weep often. It did no good to complain to her father, for he was always busy. He smoked his yard-long pipe and played checkers hour by hour, apparently caring more about having his great white coat properly starched and lustered than for his daughter to be happy. His linen had to be beaten with the laundry club until it glistened like hoarfrost, and except his wide-brimmed black horse hat hair, he looked immaculately white when he went out of the house to the government office. Poor Pigling had to perform this task of washing, starching, and glossing, in addition to the kitchen work, and the rat-a-tat of her laundry stick was often heard in the outer room till after midnight, when her heartless stepsister and mother had long been asleep. There was to be a great festival in the city, and for many days preparations were made in the house to get the father ready in his best robe and hat, and the women in their finery to go out and see the king and the royal procession. Poor Pigling wanted very much to have a look at the pageant, with a cruel stepmother setting before her a huge straw bag of unhulled rice and a big cracked water jar, told her she must husk all the rice, and drawing water from the well, fill the crock to the brim before she dared to go out on the street. What a task to haul with her fingers 3 bushels of rice and fill up a leaky vessel. Pigling wept bitterly. How could it ever be done? While she was brooding thus and opening the straw bag to begin spreading the rice out on mats, she heard a whir and a rush of wings, and down came a flock of pigeons. They first lighted on her head and shoulders, and then hopping to the floor, began diligently with beak and claw, and in a few minutes the rice lay in a heap, clean, white, and glistening, while with their pink toes they pulled away the hulls and put these in a separate pile. Then, after a great chattering and cooing, the flock was off and away. Pigling was so amazed at this wonderful work of the birds that she scarcely knew how to be thankful enough. But alas, there was still the cracked crock to be filled. Just as she took hold of the bucket to begin, there crawled out of the fire hole a sooty black imp named Tokebi. "Don't cry," he squeaked out. "I'll mend the broken part and fill the big jar for you." Forthwith, he stopped up the crack with clay, and pouring 12 buckets of water from the well into the crock, it was filled to brimming, and the water spilled over on all sides. Then Tokebi the imp bowed and crawled into the flues again, before the astonished girl could thank her helper. So Pigling had time to dress in her plain but clean clothes that were snow white. She went off and saw the royal banners and the king's grand procession of thousands of loyal men. The next time, the stepmother and her favorite daughter planned a picnic on the mountain. So the refreshments are prepared, and Pigling had to work hard in starching the dresses to be worn: jackets, long skirts, belts, sashes, and whatnot, until she nearly dropped with fatigue. Yet instead of thanking and cheering her, the cruel stepmother told Pigling she must not go out until she had hoed all the weeds out of the garden and pulled up all the grass between the stones of the walk. Again, the poor girl's face was wet with tears. She was left at home alone, while the others went off in fine clothes, with plenty to eat and drink for a day of merrymaking. While weeping thus, a huge black cow came along, and out of its great liquid eyes seemed to beam compassion upon the kitchen slave. Then, in 10 mouthfuls, the animal ate up the weeds, and between its hoof and lips soon made an end of the grass in the stone pathway. With her tears dried, Pigling followed this wonderful brood out over the meadows into the woods, where she found the most delicious fruit her eyes ever rested upon. She tasted and enjoyed, feasting to the full, and then returned home. When the jealous stepsister heard of the astonishing things of the black cow, she determined to enjoy a feast in the forest also. So on the next gala day, she stayed home and let the kitchen drudge go see the royal parade. Pigling could not understand why she was excused, even for a few hours, from the pots and the kettles, but she was still more surprised by the gift from her stepmother of a rope of cash to spend for dainties. Gratefully thanking the woman, she put on her best clothes and was soon on the main street of the city, enjoying the gay sights and looking at the happy people. There were tightrope dancing, music with drum and flute by bands of strolling players, tricks by conjurers and mountebanks with mimicking and castanets, posturing by the singing girls, and fun of all sorts. Boys peddling honey candy, barley sugar, and sweetmeats were out by the dozen. At the eating house, Pigling had a good dinner of fried fish, boiled rice with red peppers, turnips, dried persimmons, roasted chestnuts, and candied orange, and felt happy as a queen. The selfish stepsister had stayed home, not to relieve Pigling of work, but to see the wonderful cow. So, when the black animal appeared and found its friend gone, with nothing to do, it went off into the forest. The stepsister at once followed in the tracks of the cow, but the animal took it into his head to go very fast and into unpleasant places. Soon the girl found herself in a swamp, wet, muddy, and full of brambles. Still hoping for wonderful fruit, she kept on until she was tired out and the cow was no longer to be seen. Then, muddy and bedraggled, she tried to go back, but the thorny bushes tore her clothes, spoiled her hands, and so scratched her face that when at last, nearly dead, she got home, she was in rags, and her beauty was gone. But Pigling, rosy and round, looked so lovely that a young man from the south, of good family, and at that time visiting the capital, was struck with her beauty. And as he wanted a wife, he immediately sought to find out where she lived. Then he secured a go-between who visited both families and made all the arrangements for the betrothal and marriage. Grand was the wedding. The groom, Suan, was dressed in white and black silk robes with a rich horsehair cap and headdress denoting his rank as a young man or gentleman. On his breast, crossed by a silver-studded girdle, was a golden square embroidered with flying cranes rising above the waves, the symbols of civil office. He was tall, handsome, richly cultured, and quite famous as a writer of verses, besides being well read in the classics. Charming indeed looked Pear Blossom, as she was now called again, in a robe of brocade and long undersleeves which extended from her inner dress of snow-white silk. Dainty were her red kid shoes, curved upward at the toes, with a baldric of open-worked silver, a high-waisted long skirt with several linings of her inner silk robes showing prettily at the neck, and the silver bridle ring on her finger. She looked as lovely as a princess. Besides her bridal dower, her father asked Pear Blossom what she preferred as a special present. When she told him, he laughed heartily. Nevertheless, he fulfilled her wishes, and to this day, in the boudoir Pear Blossom, now Mrs. Swan, there stands an earthen figure of a black cow, molded and baked from the clay of her home province, while the pigeons like to hover about a pear tree that bursts into blossom every springtime and sheds on the ground of a snowy shower